Today, we're going to talk about the Carl Granderson roughing the passer call. This is probably the most egregious roughing the passer call I've ever seen. And we're going to break it all down, talk about why these kind of things cannot exist in 2025 in the NFL. All right, so let's take a look at the hit first. Let's really think about roughing the passer. And take the Saints fanhood, take all that stuff out of it just for an NFL play. All right, so Granderson lined up here on the bottom of your screen. Okay, gets after Dart, blindside situation, right? Dart doesn't see it coming, really late picking up Granderson. So Granderson's got a free shot at Dart. So before he even makes contact, let's talk about what could possibly be the options for roughing the passer. Number one would be taking the quarterback to the ground or landing on the quarterback, right? So Granderson cannot hit Dart and follow Dart into the ground and land on him with his body weight. So that's the first thing that could happen. Whereas if he just like Goldberg speared him and then landed on top of him, that would be roughing the passer. Fun fact, that's what happened to me in third grade. I was playing kickball, and a classmate of mine who was one of those kids where just must have been drinking a lot of whole milk. He was probably 6'1", 190 in third grade. And we were running after the ball, playing kickball, slipped on the ball. He landed on top of me, broke my collarbone. Shows you what kind of old school small Catholic school in Biloxi, Mississippi. But I told the teacher, I was like, look, I'm hurt. My arm's messed up. They gave me a peppermint, sent me back to class, and I went through the entire day of school with a broken collarbone. My grandpa picked me up from school that day. I was like, yeah, something's off. And we got x-rays, boom, broken collarbone. Anyways, so that's number one. Number two is if Granderson makes the sack but slams Dart to the ground. Can't do that either. All right, that's roughing the passer. Number three, if he slaps or hits or targets or whatever Dart's head. Number four, if he goes low. All right, so this is the Tom Brady rule. You cannot dive after a quarterback's like knees or legs or ankles or whatever, because that's how Brady blew out his ACL, and they took that out of the game. All right, so all those things, keep all those things in mind when it comes to this play. Okay, so then we see Granderson finish it, hits him. There you go. So roughing the passer's called. We'll go back to it. Granderson, this should be taught of how to avoid it, because he hits him. All right, so the hit is legal. Okay, hits him high, makes contact, doesn't hit him in the head, doesn't target, doesn't leave his feet, doesn't, catapult himself towards them, as good as it could possibly be. Then, after contact, Granderson is good enough to roll to the side. So it would have been really easy for Granderson just to make the hit, follow through with the hit, land on top of him, splat. But in the mid-air, you see him rolling off of Dart, okay? Rolls off of Dart. He lands on the side. Think about how hard that is for 6'5", 250-pound guy going full speed to make the tackle and then barrel roll, like he's playing Star Fox 64, to not land on top of Dart, okay? So again, we'll see it in full speed. Full speed. Bam, good to go. As clean as a hit could possibly be. Flag comes in. Now, think about how big of a play this is. Now, in this specific situation, it's not as big. The Saints are up 12. There's less than 2 minutes left, whatever. But imagine this is a one-score game. Imagine the Giants are within 1 or 2, and all they need is a field goal. Or imagine this is a fumble. Imagine it's a tie game, and this causes a fumble, and the Saints recovered or whatever, and it's negated by the penalty. All right? This cannot happen in today's NFL. This cannot be a thing. You cannot have an official make a mistake like this on a play this big that is foundational to football, which is just tackling, which is just a sack, this isn't rough, this isn't a face mask or whatever. This is as basic as the game gets. This is the act of a defensive player tackling an offensive player. If they can't get this right in this moment, in such a clean hit, a hit that should be celebrated by the league, a hit that should be shown at training camp and preseason because they do show it. For y'all just in case y'all don't know, the NFL sends out every year examples of good and bad with stuff like pass interference, roughing the passer, in order so that everyone knows the rules. Because you hear it all the time. It's like, well, how am I supposed to sack him? What am I supposed to do? They send out videos. This should be in the how to sack a quarterback. Because this is a violent collision. Blindside, full speed, Dart never sees him coming, all that stuff. For as violent as this is, it's as clean as can be. Doesn't take him to the ground. Dart goes to the ground, of course, the momentum and all that stuff, but he's not taken to the ground by Granderson. Granderson doesn't land on top of him, not high, not low, not targeting, all that stuff. Okay? So the penalty comes in. Everyone's furious. Cam Jordan's furious. Carl Granderson's furious, obviously. I'm furious. Dart's seeing stars. He's moonwalking on the sun right here. But let's see. So this guy, it's a situation where he just wants to hear his name, right? He just wants to be on TV. He just wants to make the call. And it gives huge play, right? Gives them, again, we'll see it from this angle. I mean, even the helmets. Granderson is even good enough to where he positions the helmet to where it's not even like his helmet's on side of Dart's. So it's not even the helmets. There's nothing that can happen here. There's nothing. He borderline cradles him and hugs him to the ground. Like that could have been so much worse. All right. And of course, the Giants, get 15 yards. It's a penalty. They get a new set of downs. Drive continues. I have been saying for years, and now that sports betting and money and there's so many eyes and there's so much on the product, I think the referees should be graded and whatever, the same that coaches are, the same that players are. When you make a mistake like this, I think the referees should be either suspended, fined, fired, whatever. They have to have some kind of I don't want to say punishment, but you have to have something that would stop them from doing this. They can't because what happens here, just like what happened in the NFC Championship game, and we see it every week, is bad calls are made, and the referees the game just goes on. The referee has to explain themselves. The referee is suspended or fined or whatever. It's just on to the next play, on to the next game. There really isn't another job like that. There really isn't another job, especially in professional sports, where you can just whiff, completely change the game, and there's nothing. We don't even hear from the referees. We don't even hear an explanation. We don't hear anything. In the NBA, they had the 2-minute report or whatever, and I'm sure the NFL will come out and say this was a bad call, but that's it. They don't get the play back. They don't get the yards back. They don't get the penalty back. Granderson doesn't get a sack, right? All that stuff doesn't happen. That's got to change. That's got to change. I think every referee group should have to do a press conference after every game, just like coaches do, just like players do. And they should have to field questions from the media, and they should have to answer for calls. And this is a good example of that. He should have to answer for the call and explain what he saw. And if he's wrong, he gets fined. Don't you think referees would be much less likely to throw flags like this if they're getting fined or suspended? I do. But we don't even know this guy's name. I mean, I'm sure you could find it, but there should be like stats. Like baseball now does stats where home plate umpires, they get a strike and a ball percentage and a missed call percentage and all that stuff. There should be a referee scorecard of how many flags, the percentage of flags, the percentage of calls that are made, success rate, and all that stuff. And you should know every year. Like this referee, it has a 67% success rate. This referee has a 90% success rate. And the ones who have a 60, 70, whatever percent success rate and they're making calls like this, they should either get sent to the Mountain West Conference to figure themselves out or get some training or do something. But this is just a crazy call in this spot. Crazy call. And all it does is really hurt the product. Like, I know people are going to say, well, it's because the Saints got this, the NFL hates the Saints, or, well, the Giants, the NFL big market. I think that, honestly, that takes away from how bad the referees are. Because if you say, well, which I think is ridiculous, the NFL's not rigged or whatever, but if you say, nah, the NFL wanted this call, they did it, they hate the Saints, whatever, then that gives the ref an out. That gives the ref an excuse for the call. The worst thing would be if the referee is just wrong, if he's just inept at his job, which is the reality. This is not rigged. This was not blown in from Goodell to try and keep the Giants in it or whatever. This is just a referee making a horrific call. And luckily, this is a 12-point game with less than 2 minutes left. But if this was a one-score game, especially if all the Giants needed was a field goal, with how good field goal kickers are, it's indoors, you get 15 yards, all of a sudden now you're basically in range. Think about the impacts this could have had. Spencer Rattler could have lost his job. Right? Spencer Rattler isn't even on the field. But if this call goes against the Saints in a one-score game and the Giants kick a field goal, win it, whatever, all of a sudden, the Saints could bench Rattler, turn to Shuck. That could be it. It could be the whole thing. An innocuous roughing the passer call could be a game-breaking call, just like the non-pass interference call in the NFC Championship game potentially cost Drew Brees a Super Bowl. Right? Changed everything. Changed so many different things for so many different players and franchises and fan bases and whatever else. So the NFL has got to clean this up. And I know Cam Jordan's come out very outspoken against this play. I know Kellen Moore was pretty respectful in his comments or whatever. I don't expect anything to happen with this, but the NFL internally has to fix this kind of stuff. They have to fix this. Unless, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but unless they just don't want sacks in the game. Unless there's something else. Like, put flags on them, whatever. If they don't want sacks in the game, fine. But this is crazy. And, at the time, I was focused on just getting the win home, getting the clock to zeros. It is what it is. Thank God this wasn't like an actual game-breaking call, but it certainly could have been. And we see games that are decided by this kind of stuff all the time. And it's just ridiculous in 2025. It's just ridiculous in 2025 to have, with the technology that we have, with review that we have, with all that stuff that we have, we cannot have this in the game. Cannot have these kind of things. The human error from a referee to potentially decide an NFL game, which now has billions of dollars on it and repercussions across the board. So figure it out, the NFL. But had to talk about this because it's, I think, the worst roughing the passer call in the NFL history. Scott Van Pelt, my boy, he tweeted out he thinks it's the worst as well. And I can't imagine any roughing the passer call that's more egregious than this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.